Jason Cason. Got a quick one today, just some quick recaps for you in the sports world. We're on episode 37, which is pretty exciting. Our goal is to be here at episode 50 shortly, especially before the end of the year. So we're going to dive into the three sports that had the biggest news so far this week. And then, of course, we all know what today is Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday. And we will be covering that here at the end of the episode. So stick around, see what the picks are, and voting will be live here shortly as well. Diving into the first sport that we have some news is baseball. We're actually coming down to the final 3 days of the season where we will start rounding out our playoff tickets punched. So far, right now, we have a few teams that have some more than 3 games left with 3 days. We have the Cardinals and the Brewers are actually playing a 4-game series. The Giants and the Padres will be playing a 4-game series. And then you also have the why I'm drawing a blank right now is frustrating, but we have the Marlins will also be playing 4 games in this 3-day stretch. So far, the teams that have punched their ticket already, the A's have clinched the AL West. The Rays have clinched the AL East, while the Yankees and Blue Jays have also punched their ticket to the playoffs. They are not sure on their playoff positioning yet. These last 3 games will determine that. And then the Central, we have the Twins, the White Sox, and the Indians all clinching. But again, with 3 games left, all teams are within 2 games back. So these last 3 games will determine who will clinch that division. But so far, that only leaves 1 spot left in the AL for the remaining teams. Going to the NL, we have the Dodgers, who have already clinched the West title, with the Padres claiming the first wild card spot. The East, we have the Braves that have clinched their title, and then the Cubs that have clinched the Central title. So that would leave us with 4 remaining spots in the NL side. So of those spots that are available in the NL, we have the Cardinals, the Reds, the Marlins, the Giants, the Phillies, the Brewers, and the Rockies are all mathematically still in the race. Some key matchups that are left, we have the Brewers and the Cardinals. So we just mentioned both of those teams are in the race for the hunt, and we also mentioned they have a 4-game series in these last 3 days. So they will be playing head-to-head, and that series will be crucial for who makes it into the playoffs. And we also have the Padres and the Giants playing each other, and the Padres have an opportunity to eliminate a division rival, which is always key, especially come playoff time. You never want to be matched up with a division rival because they have seen you the most throughout the year, and it could be a tough matchup come playoff time. So the Padres have an opportunity to eliminate the Giants from the NL West and from the playoff race, so they don't have to run into that buzzsaw here in the playoffs. On the AL side, it comes down to 2 teams. It's the Angels and the Astros. Unfortunately, my Angels are pretty much mathematically out. We have like a 0.4% chance of making this playoff. Basically, what needs to happen is the Angels have to win out. They are 3 games back. They do hold the tiebreaker over the Astros, so they would have to win their 3 games against the Dodgers, which is going to be a very difficult task. And while that happens, the Astros are playing the Rangers, who are the bottom of the barrel in the AL West. So some magic numbers, and what magic numbers mean is basically any of the teams that are in control of the playoffs, how many wins they have to get to make the playoffs. So, for instance, the Angels do not have a magic number because they are not in control. They have to win their final 3 games, and they have to have the Astros lose 3. So they are not in control of their spot. But the magic numbers for the teams that are in control, the Astros, their magic number is 1, which means the Astros win 1 of these last 3 games with the Rangers, they're in. Marlins 2, so the Marlins are matched up against the Yankees. If the Marlins win these 2 games with against the Yankees, they are in, no matter what happens with the other teams that are in the hunt. The Reds are 3, so if the Reds win out their remaining 3 games, they are in the playoffs. And then the Cardinals are the Cardinals and the Giants are 4. So if the Giants and the Cardinals both playing 4-game series, Giants against the Padres, Cardinals against the Brewers, If they sweep their series, they are in. Now, what that means for the teams remaining, the teams that were not mentioned, so the Phillies, the Brewers, and the Rockies, what that means is those teams don't necessarily need to win out, but they need things to happen. So for the Phillies, they're a game and a half, 2 games back. If the Phillies win 2 games and then the Giants lose all 4 to the Brewers, the Phillies are in. So the Phillies don't have to win out and hope for other teams to lose. They just have to win more than other teams win. And depending on how many games back, for the Phillies' sake, they're, anywhere from 1 to 2, depending on what team they're chasing and depending on what teams win. So the Phillies, Brewers, and Rockies are not in control. As a matter of fact, Rockies are actually mathematically in the same situation as the Angels. They would have to win out and have multiple teams lose out to make the playoffs. So we'll see how this one plays out. This one's going to be interesting. I think today, Friday, we're going to find out some teams that have advanced or have set up their playoff race in a much easier situation, especially if, like the Rockies lose or the Cardinals beat the Brewers. It gives them an edge up. Again, Cardinals, they have a 4-game series against the Brewers. Their magic number is 4. That's to guarantee a spot. The Cardinals could lose 2, but if, the Phillies lose 2, they're in. Or the Rockies lose 2, they're in. So that's kind of how that works. Moving over to the other sport that we have news for, or not necessarily news, but actually going on that we can talk about. NFL is going off without a hitch, and it's great. Having football back is amazing. Sundays and Mondays and even Thursdays are great. So far, we're coming into week 3 of the season. We do have quite a few undefeated teams left, some 2-0 teams. We have the Arizona Cardinals, Baltimore Ravens, Green Bay Packers, Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans, Los Angeles Rams, Pittsburgh Steelers, Seattle Seahawks, Las Vegas Raiders, and the Chicago Bears. Now, of these teams that are undefeated, there are only a few that are true contenders through the first 2 games. There's some other teams that benefited from playing some bad teams. The Steelers, they're a team that they're showing their struggles for sure. Barely squeaking away a win in Denver with a backup quarterback and a depleted defense and a depleted receiving core and no Phillip Lindsay, and barely squeaking out a win. Look, in the NFL, a win is a win. That is definitely for sure. But I don't think I've seen enough from the Steelers to say that they're a true contender yet. Teams like the Ravens and the Packers, I mean, their score differential is 30 plus. I believe the Packers are at like 32 and the Ravens are like 46. And that shows us even if they play weaker teams, they're scoring at will. You have a team like the Chiefs. Chiefs are, they struggled or dominated week 1 but struggled week 2, and they struggled against a Chargers team that had a backup quarterback. And they were down most of that game. So there's a lot of kinks that the Chiefs still have to work out, but realistically, the Chiefs definitely showed me enough that they still have the weapons and they've actually improved, which is scary. Of this list, I would say Ravens, Packers, Chiefs, Titans, and Seahawks are probably the teams that stand out to me as far as overall team look. We're going to get some good matchups this week to show us some things that that'll prove to be outliers here for the remainder of the season. Teams like the Bears, the Raiders, the Rams even. I mean, these teams were the Bills too. Teams that have just played weaker opponents, and the Raiders actually beat the Saints Monday night, but definitely not the same Saints team that we've seen. They didn't have Michael Thomas, and it just seemed like the rhythm was off. The Raiders took advantage of that, which can't knock them for that. They won by double digits, but still, there's more I need to see, and we'll definitely get a glimpse of that this week. The Bears, with the way their defense is playing, it reminds me of a couple years ago But the problem is Mitchell Trubisky hasn't put multiple quarters together to show that he's still the guy. He did beat out Nick Foles, but I mean, did he really? With not having a training camp and OTAs like you normally would, Nick Foles really didn't have time to progress. Where Trubisky's been in this system, so haven't seen enough from the Bears. The Rams, I'm still up in the air. Goff is so hot and cold. It's hard to determine if he's back or if he's in his form from a few years ago. And their running game still, they're doing a running back by committee, and no one has shown us in that backfield that they're the guy, with Cam Akers running hard and Malcolm Brown. I mean, one of those guys, I mean, Darrell Henderson's back there too, but one of those guys has to show up. And it reminds me of the Bucs a couple years ago when, they had like 4 options at running back, and you never knew who was going to start, and whoever started never even put up the best performance. So we'll see how the backfield plays out for the Rams. That's my biggest question mark for them. And then with the Bills, it's just I need to see them against top-tier talent. And having said that, we actually have some good matchups this week. The Rams and the Bills will be playing each other, so that's a 2-0 matchup. We'll see how the Rams running game can go up against the Bills defense, and we'll see how that Bills offense can move the ball against the Rams defense. And I think we're going to see some things that are going to determine who is going to actually put together a good run this season. Generally, by week 4, week 5, you will know what teams have the talent to make the push, because you'll be able to see who's putting up points, who's stopping scoring, because sometimes you'll see teams that just can't be stopped, and they're just scoring a bunch of points, but they can't stop the other team. So they're winning shootouts, but what happens when they run into a team that can scheme? Not necessarily defend, but scheme. So through the first 4 or 5 weeks, you'll be able to determine that. And with week 3, we're getting a few good matchups that'll kind of help us lead to that path. Raiders and Patriots will also be playing. This will actually be Gruden's return to Foxborough since him coming back to the Raiders, and since the famous Tuck Rule game. I think the Raiders are going to come out with a ton of energy. The problem is Bill Belichick is very good at eliminating your best options. And right now, with the best options of the Raiders being Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller, he's going to have to pick and choose which one to get rid of. And if he picks correctly, we might see a depleted Raiders offense as far as them moving the ball and putting points on the board. Packers Saints, they're actually playing Sunday night. This is going to be a question mark for Drew Brees. Drew Brees is getting a lot of flack for how he played against the Raiders. And if he can't come back and at least put up a good performance, not even win, just put up a good performance against the Packers, a team that has a pretty good defense, but you can still put up points, especially since the Packers offense moves the ball so quickly. If Brees can't keep up with them, with or without Michael Thomas, they're going to fall to 1-2, and there's going to be a lot of question marks in New Orleans. Chiefs-Ravens Monday night. This will be another 2-0 matchup. This will be which team's going to get the win. This is last year, Chiefs-Ravens went down to the wire. Ravens were able to stop the Chiefs from moving the ball, which so far the Chargers have already shown us that they can do that. So we'll see how this game plays out. I'm interested to see how Patrick Mahomes bounces back from his not-so-great performance against the Chargers. And it'll be interesting to see Lamar Jackson's first true test this year and see how he's progressed from last year. Aside from those matchups, we do still have some teams that obviously don't have wins. We have the Lions, the Giants, the Falcons, Texans, Broncos, Eagles, Jets, Vikings, Bengals, and Panthers. A lot of these teams are really on this list because of injuries. Like the Panthers, for instance, the Panthers losing Christian McCaffrey, and they're really a new team with a new coach. So, I think the Panthers are probably going to struggle here for the next few games until they can get McCaffrey back. The Vikings are the biggest question mark because the Vikings have the talent. They did lose Anthony Barr, which is tough. They have Kirk Cousins. They did lose Diggs in the offseason, but they still have Thielen. They went out and got Justin Jefferson from LSU. I think the biggest loss here is losing Stefanski to the Browns. Stefanski was a good offensive coordinator for this team. He was able to get the ball moving, get the ball in other people's hands. And I think Kirk Cousins felt comfortable in that offense. And with Stefanski gone, I just don't see that comfortability in the pocket. And, I think he's forcing throws. I think he's feeling pressure when pressure necessarily isn't there because he has that internal clock and he knows that the ball needs to be out and the ball's not out because no one's open. It could be route concepts. It could be a lot of things. The Vikings are the biggest question mark on this list for me. And then right behind that would be the Texans and the Falcons. I think of the talent that the Texans and the Falcons have, they should not be on this list. The Falcons blew the game against the Cowboys, with the Cowboys getting an onside kick. And mind you, the onside kick is almost obsolete in now in the NFL now because the kickoff team cannot run prior to the kick being made. So that eliminates any momentum and any pressure of trying to catch an onside kick with someone coming at you in your face. I mean, realistically, the only way that teams can get onside kicks now are the way the Cowboys recovered it, or by kicking the ball directly into the ground and hoping it stays in the air for a good duration to allow that team to come in and try to catch it or hit the person that's about to catch it so he doesn't fully grasp it and then you can fall on it on the ground. But the way that the Cowboys did it was they laid the ball flat, and then when they kicked the ball, it rotated. And so apparently when the ball is there, if you kick it towards the direction that you want it to go, it'll spin and then it'll curve back. So what they did was they kicked it on the direction where that 10 yards would need to be. The ball kind of goes straight and then it kind of flutters back 10 yards, and the Falcons were just sitting there not knowing if they should touch it, not knowing if it had been 10 yards yet, and the Cowboys just fell on it. So kind of like back when I believe Pat McAfee did it, where he actually did an onside kick to himself. He just kicked it 10 yards. He ran the 10 yards and just let the ball fall into his chest because the team wasn't expecting an onside kick. Similar to that, they allowed the ball to carry its 10 yards and do it at a pace to where the Falcons didn't want to touch it in case they didn't get a full grasp on it. But any hands team knows once that ball is within 3 of the 10 yards, you're jumping on that thing, especially if you have the room that you have with the onside kick team not being able to run at you. So tough loss for the Falcons. Not the first time they've dropped a 20-point lead. And the Falcons are there. They're putting up the numbers Matt Ryan threw for 450 yards week 1. I mean, they're definitely moving the ball. They're staying fairly healthy. They're another big question mark for me for sure. Of these teams, I think the Giants and the Jets, I think they're going to be battling for the number 1 pick. I really do. I don't see the Jets winning a single game this year. Maybe 2. Giants are in the same boat, especially losing Saquon Barkley. That is tough. My diamonds in the rough, I'm going to pick the Bengals. I'm seeing enough from Joe Burrow to know that this guy does not like to lose. And, with another matchup against the Browns coming up, some other favorable matchups coming up, I like the Bengals. As a matter of fact, I like the Bengals this week. I think that they can put up a good fight, and I like their matchup. So Bengals would be my diamond in the rough, and then I also I like the Lions. The Lions have dealt with a lot of injuries, especially in their secondary, but never count Matt Stafford out. Once he can get back into his rhythm and his defense can get a couple stops, I mean, they're a team to be reckoned with. I mean, they were dominating the game against the Packers early, and then Aaron Rodgers started figuring out which corners to pick on, and then it was ball game from there. So if they can kind of bolster that secondary up, I think the Lions can actually make a good run and possibly squeak into a wild card spot for sure. Staying in the football realm, we have some college football news. Last time we talked about firing the Pac-12, everyone that's in the Pac-12 because they were just not making the right decisions, and the Pac-12 and the Mountain West being the only D1 conferences, big-time conferences that aren't playing. Well, the Pac-12 and Mountain West have actually announced that they will be returning to football. Mountain West will be returning in late October to complete an 8-game season. They will be all conference games. They're not playing any out-of-conference games, which most of these schools are doing. And then the Pac-12 will actually be returning in November and completing a 7-game season. No real details or medical advice have come out as to why an 8 or 7-game season is all that they're doing and why they're starting so late. But part of it is kind of what we talked about last week is, with COVID and everything that's going on, if it allows the team to get back into the facilities, get back to practice. If someone tests positive, they can continue practice and quarantining that person, and that person has time to return before the season starts. That's why they're starting so late. The problem is this pushes it so far back that there's no time for makeup games. And so far, we've already had 21 games that have either been delayed or canceled because of COVID. So with, faculty members or staff members that are around the team testing positive, that team no longer can play. So with games being delayed or canceled, the games that are being canceled are with the conferences that didn't leave their schools, weeks to where they can squeeze a game in. And starting this late. So basically what it's coming down to is Halloween weekend is a big week for college football. Because not a lot of teams are playing, but the teams that have already started, if games are delayed, that's the weekend that they're going to be playing. With the Mountain West and the Pac-12 both starting either right at or right after that gives them no time for makeup games. So if anything's canceled, they're done. And what sucks is your team can be fully healthy, no COVID signs, no COVID positive tests, but you're playing Air Force, and Air Force had someone test positive. Now Air Force can't travel and play. So now you're healthy, but you don't get another game, which can really factor into the college football playoff, because if you're, the number 6 team in the nation and you only have 7 games to prove yourself and you stay healthy, but, Oregon State tests positive and you don't get to play, well, guess what? Now you only have a 6-game resume to prove that you deserve to be in one of those 4 spots over a team that played, 8 or 9 games. The college football playoff is going to take, if that team goes 9-0 and you're 6-0, they're going to take the team that's 9-0, not 6-0. So I want to say too little, too late, but it will be great to have all college football back. Allow these kids to get out there and play football. It's a shame that it took these conferences this long to make a decision. That is tough, but at least we're getting football. It'll be nice to see my Ducks on the field, and I hope that you guys are excited to see your teams as well. I know here in Boise, Bronco fans are ecstatic, whether it's 8 games, 4 games, or 3 games. They're ready for some football. So it's exciting to hear that. It's tough for the teams that are actually in the playoff race. We'll see how that one plays out, and hopefully the committee can get something right. Hey, maybe the committee comes out and says that we're going to expand it to 8 games just for this year because of COVID. But in that realm too, if you expand that to 8 games, if one of the playoff teams tests positive, then what? So there's a lot of things to think about, and I think that they're still working on it, so we'll see how that plays out. But that's the big news in college football. Hopefully everyone gets excited about it. To wrap this episode up, we're actually going to do our second episode of Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday, and we have the fam on the other line, so we're going to bring them on, and we're going to get our picks, and we're going to get this thing rolling. Let's do it. Welcome back to episode 2 of Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday. We have the crew back. Congratulations to Team Hay for the dub. Everyone that voted for Team Hay, you are now 1-0 on the season. So good job. I don't know if you should stick with her. I don't know if the consistency is going to be there. Just an insider tip. Now,
I'm the one that picks me.
Huh?
That's it.
Anyways, so rules, if you are new to this, because your friends loved it and now they've told you and you have joined, because that's what happens these days. The 4 of us will be picking 4 fantasy players, a quarterback, a flex, a defense, and a kicker. And the square with the most points is the winner, and then the people who have voted for that square will get a point or a entry towards the drawing at the end of the season, which will get you goodies. And we're going to keep it at goodies until we decide what it is, so stay tuned with that. But we will dive right into it. So, being that she won last week, we will give Team Hay the floor. So, Team Hay, who are we going with this week?
Okay, at quarterback, I got Mr. Russell Wilson. At flex, I got DeAndre Hopkins. Kicker, Justin Tucker. And defense, Baltimore Ravens.
Good picks. Mr. Mediocre Panda, who do we got this week?
For my quarterback, I have chosen Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. At flex, Josh Jacobs. For my defense, I picked the Steelers defense. And for my kicker, I have Falcons kicking sensation Young-Ho Koo.
Nice. I have a feeling that you picked him not because of the sensation. Mrs. Point, this direction. What do we got this week?
I'm picking Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback solely just because I love him. I don't know how he'll do against the Saints, but I have in my flex Kamara, kicker Boswell, I think that's how you say it, and Steelers defense again because they kicked butt last week.
They did. They're actually top 3 in defense. I am going with Lamar Jackson as my quarterback, Aaron Jones as my flex, Justin Tucker as my kicker, and the Colts as my defense. So, Haley, talk to me about why you decided to take DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, Christian McCaffrey is injured. And DeAndre Hopkins has been very consistent the first 2 weeks, putting up 20 points at least the first 2 games. And he is going against the ever so famous Detroit Lions, who next to the Denver Broncos is not the best team. So that is why I picked DeAndre Hopkins.
Big oofs. Randy is getting pooped on 2 weeks in a row.
Hey, but I threw my own team under the bus, so.
Doesn't make it any better. Mr. Panda, going with the sensation of Kyler Murray. What's up with that one?
Just like Haley said, he has been very, very consistent and getting better every week. And just going up against a football team called the Detroit Lions, who are not very good. So I think he's going to continue to shine.
And let's be honest here. Did we pick Mr. Koo because of his first name or because he's actually a good kicker?
The name was kind of an added bonus. I picked him mostly because he's ranked the number 1 kicker in fantasy right now. And also, I can't remember who the Falcons are playing. The Bears. So
Da Bears.
Da Bears.
Yep. Mrs. Point, Rodgers again, not so consistent for you last week, but you're going to go with him again against a better defense than the Saints. Why is that?
He always comes out on top in the end.
Fair enough.
2-0.
Haley, little sus that Cody takes the quarterback of the receiver that you pick so he can get some points.
Listen, man, Thielen destroyed me last week. If I'd picked anybody else, we would have been fine. But
it's true.
Fair enough.
But, Team Hay will come out on top.
Fair enough. Well, at least anyone that has voted, you really only have to watch a couple games. Watch the Packers Saints, watch the Chiefs Ravens, and you can watch the Cardinals game since one of the people that you voted for probably has players on those teams. That's all we got for this week. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you vote. We'll be putting everything out this coming Saturday. So if you're watching today, it'll be tomorrow. And make sure that you are voting for your squads. We got Team Hay, who was a winner last week. And then we have the rest of us who were all losers and fell to hashtag Team Hay. So make sure you vote. Again, we'll be using hashtags for Twitter and Instagram, and then we'll be doing actual reactions on Facebook for you to vote for your squares. So hope everyone has a good day. And as we end every show, may the sports be with you.